Hi, my
Hi.
name is Denise.
Hi.
Um, I would like to comment on Maximus said because my family is actually they're actually very religious, and I was growing up I was always taught at the moment I said that I wanted to study biology. I My parents and my pastor were actually really adamant about me pursuing biology as a major because they said that it actually defies some of the ideas that I've been taught. So, we were taught like Adam and Eve were the first that inhabited the earth. And then once I studied biology, it's like, no, not Adam and Eve inhabited the earth. Homo sapiens were actually before us. So I wanted to ask you this question. Did you find that you were more successful trying to convince people in terms of like that practice different religions as opposed to like Muslim and Christianity? Or like, did you I don't know. Do you know where I'm going with this? Because when I'm in church, um, some pastors they speak against other religions. So I know even though we may think we're in a cohesive environment, we're not really in a cohesive environment because we try to not come together as like one religion. We kind of like segregate ourselves in terms of like religion. So I wanted to ask, like, did you find it more successful trying to convince another religion about your ideas as opposed to another one?
Well, so far my invitations to come and talk have come from quite liberal congregations. I have yet to be invited to a Southern Baptist congregation, for example, or lots of others where the whole idea is to fear and marginalize science and to say that it's the enemy. That would be well, they'd never invite me, right? If they did, I'd go and I'd see what happened. I'd be fascinated. But the word on the street is that they just wouldn't want to hear anything I said, and they would only invite me to try to shoot down what I was saying, which I'd be very happy to experience and see what happened. And at the end, I might just throw up my hands and say, hey, we just got to agree to disagree. This isn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But I haven't had that opportunity. So let me ask you the question back. Where are you at this point in your journey in terms of that community versus other things that you're experiencing in college and reading and so on? Do you still consider yourself a part of that community, or are you backing away from it a little bit, or how are you organizing this?
So, ironically, I can't tell my mom because she won't allow me back in the house if I tell her.
You have this URL?
Because like the Bible was man-made, and Jehovah's Witnesses, they follow a lot of ideas from the Bible as opposed to like me, I'm Baptist. I follow some of the ideas from the Bible, but I don't solely just follow everything from the Bible. I'm more like spiritual. Mm-hmm. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate Christmas because they say Christmas is not in the Bible, but we celebrate Christmas. So there's a lot of things that conflict on what we say. So I find myself to be more spiritual than religious because some of the ideas that have been proposed, I question it. So my journey throughout when I came to college, I've seen that I became more open-minded. I was very much ignorant to what was been going on, but that's only because I've been sheltered. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the ideas that's been proposed to me, I remember sitting down my first lecture in my bio class, my professor, he spoke about religion, and I was on the verge of raising my hand saying, well, what you're saying is not true. But instead I went and I spoke to my pastor. My pastor, his first resource was the Bible. So a lot of the times you'll find that most Christians, they use their Bible as their sole resource to explain the ideas of what's going on right now. So thankfully, I'm going through like these discussions. I'm being quite open-minded about what's being taught to me because it's allowed me to learn beyond what I've been taught. So yeah, so now I'm more spiritual than religious because I noticed that like.
Let me just take up that phrase because it's so common, particularly in your generation, to say I'm spiritual but not religious. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of people have said to us who are developing this, why are you using the R word? You know, it's a toxic word. I hated my religion growing up, and think of all those pedophile priests, and I mean, they just go on and on, and outrage just hearing that noun, religion. And I've held my ground, because as I tried to argue perhaps too many times in that talk, being spiritual is part of being religious, but it's not the whole deal. I mean, being religious, I would say, is also being moral and ethical, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's not the same thing as being spiritual and feeling awe and gratitude and humility and all of those spiritual responses. There's a whole moral component to religions that many writers, like Loyal Rue, for example, his whole argument is that religion, he has a book called Religion is Not About God. Mm-hmm. He thinks it just has to do with educating the social emotions, is his phrase, and just a way through narrative, through these stories, of basically the society organizing people so that they're nice to each other and get along, and all the things that we call moral behavior. And then the interpretive part. I mean, if you have a story, you know, it's not just feeling great about it. It's taking it in. How does this work in my head? What do I make of my story? And in the Baptist tradition, of course, the story is the biblical one, and the pastor is interpreting it for you. Mm-hmm. But in sermons and Bible study and all of that, you're learning how to interpret this stuff. If you even get interested in the scientific worldview, if you will, nobody's offering any interpretation at all. Silence. So you get to do it, or you get to listen to folks like me who, you know, can say, here's where I come out, and then you should for sure read 40 more books and see where other people come out, and then come to your own conclusion.
Can I ask you one more question?
Of course.
Do you believe that individuals will still have morals without religion?
Well, of course, what I'm proposing is religion. So I'm proposing, I think that humans are inherently set up to be religious, because they are set up to be moral, I tried to argue. Mm-hmm. We have all of these emotional parts of ourselves that respond to with awe and wonder and reverence. That's not taught, that's there. That's elicited not only by religions, but by artists, by everybody that's trying to get our attention. So I think that if religion, and even like Marxism and communism, where religion was forbidden, right? You know, it was the opiate of the masses and yada yada. They just substituted another religion. I mean, Marxism, if you start thinking about it, and how all of the moral edicts that it imposes about equal distribution of wealth and all persons, I mean, most of the Marxist societies didn't do so well in practice along those lines, but lots of intentional communities, even if they don't use the R word, are in fact, to my mind, religious. So I'm sticking with the word, even if it means that maybe more people would be listening to what we have to say if we didn't use it. Because in the end, I think it's the important word. It means, so ligate means to tie together. It's the same anchor as ligament that ties bones together. And religate means to bring back together again. And I think that says a lot more about where we really should be going than that we feel spiritual when we see a sunset. I mean, I think feeling spiritual when we see a sunset is great. I'm a sucker for sunsets, but it it can't be the whole of our religious life.
Mhm.
So you can go back to saying you're spiritual, not religious, if you want to, but that's my.
Thank you.
You're welcome.